Sudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat. Canto 3, Chapter 27, text number 30, the last verse of the chapter. Yada na yoga pachitasu cheto maya susiddhasya vishishyate nirga ananya heteshu atame gati syad atyantiki yatrana mrityu hasaha yadana yoga pachitasu cheto maya susiddhasya vishishyate nirga ananya heteshu atame gati syad adyantiki yatra namrityu hasaha. Yata go tatsuchitu maya susiddhasya vishishyate ananya heteshu atame gati syad adyantiki yatra namrityu hasaha yadana yoga pachitasu cheto maya susiddhasya vishishyate nga ananya heteshu atame gati syad adyantiki yatra namrityu hasa. Ladies, please chant. Yada yoga patitas. Yada, when, na, not. Yoga upachitaso, the powers developed by yoga. Chetaha, the attention. Mayaso, manifestations of Maya. Siddhasya, of a perfect yogi. Vishishate, vishajate, is attracted. Anga, my dear mother. Ananya hetu shu, having no other cause. Ata, then. Me, to me. Gatihi, his progress. Syat, becomes. Atyantiki, unlimited. Yatra, where. Na, not. Ritu hasaha, power of death. Translation: when a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. The yogis are generally attracted to the byproducts of mystic yogic power, for they can become smaller than the smallest or greater than the greatest, achieve anything they desire, have power to create even a planet, or bring anyone they like under their subjugation. Yogis who have incomplete information of the result of devotional service are attracted by these powers, but these powers are material. They have nothing to do with spiritual progress. As other material powers are created by the material energy, the mystic yogic powers are also material. A perfect yogi's mind is not attracted by any material power, but is simply attracted by unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. For a devotee, the process of merging into the Brahman effulgence is considered to be hellish, and yogic power, or the preliminary perfection of yogic power, is to be able to control the senses. To be able to control the senses is automatically achieved. As far as elevation to higher planets, a devotee considers this to be simply hallucinatory. A devotee's attention is concentrated only upon the eternal loving service of the Lord, and therefore the power of death has no influence over him. In such a devotional state, a perfect yogi can attain the status of immortal knowledge and bliss. The title of the chapter is Understanding Material Nature. So the substance of Sankhya philosophy is within the chapter abundantly, but towards the end of this chapter, what's the purpose of of Sankhya? What's the purpose of understanding material nature? What's the purpose of understanding anything? Because Kapila Deva is an incarnation of the personality of Godhead, naturally he knows perfectly well the purpose of understanding anything. It doesn't mean that he doesn't understand fundamentals of material nature. He understands. And the purpose behind that understanding, he also understands. And the purpose behind that understanding is how this chapter concludes. And the next chapter is going to also deal with yoga, or yogic perfection. So that this is a nice transition verse between 27 and 28. Because the person who has this understanding of material nature will certainly understand what's behind material nature, or who is behind material nature. Alternatively, one who understands details and details and details and details and details of material nature doesn't therefore understand by deductive logic what or who is behind the material nature. I've narrated this before. When I was senior in high school, my family, my mother primarily, because she was a school teacher, she signed up for having a international foreign student stay with us, and somebody from our school went to some foreign country. It was like, a nice program to build relationships between other countries and us, etc. So the person that came from Japan, and we shared the same room. We developed a friendship, and we went through senior year of high school together. Brilliant young man. And I just recently found out, I had a misunderstanding. When he went back to Japan, he got a PhD in biology. Although he was a mathematician, I thought he had double PhD. But biology, and then a master's degree in something like about statistical analysis through computers or something like that. And he's now, elderly, and he's a professor emeritus at Tokyo University, the number one, like Princeton, Harvard, Yale kind of caliber of university in Tokyo. So he was teaching and researching. So one time he had to attend a conference in America, so he flew from Japan to America. And on his way back out, he decided he wanted to visit me. So I was in New York at the time. And he wanted, in addition to visit me, he wanted to see the Empire State Building. Statue of Liberty. And I hadn't seen the Statue of Liberty, so I said, okay, let's go. So we got on a train ride from the temple to the southern tip of Manhattan, and on the train ride we're sitting next to each other, and I asked him what you do, and he's doing some research. What was his research? The cell division of a frog. How does one cell become two cells? From biology and math. Probably some physics in there too. So I asked him, I said, interesting. What if the principle behind one cell becoming two cells is a soul entered the second cell, and therefore they could have two cells? I didn't say that was the case. I just asked, what if? And he said, as a scientist, that's a topic we can't even consider or discuss. So in other words, what's behind the details of understanding material nature, which is chapter 27, can't even discuss. There's no even speculation, or certainly nothing one can research to find what's behind. No, that was when I heard him say that, I thought that's honest, because I expected something else. I didn't know what to expect, but wouldn't expect. We can't even talk about it. Okay. So, what's the purpose of understanding material nature? The purpose of understanding that the flow of this chapter is, after explaining and explaining and explaining, comes to the meditation upon acceptance of and further meditation upon Supersoul, because Supersoul is behind Maya Jakshena Prakriti, Suyate Satcharacharam, whether moving or non-moving. There's a superintendent, Adhyaksha, and it's by the sanction of the Adhyaksha person that matter combines or doesn't combine, or matter does what matter does. Matter moves by the sanction of the Supreme. Now, the Supreme acts through energies, time energy, and other so many energies, and then by his sanction, then stuff happens. And without sanction, it doesn't happen. So, and what's to determine whether it does or it doesn't? Like, is it whimsical? Is it capricious on the side of the personality of Godhead, Super Soul, that something will happen, and in another case, that same something doesn't happen? You know, whether the cell of a frog will divide or not. Some sanction, besides, whatever else might be factors. So because the yoga system is complete, it does not exclude understanding activities and principles of material nature unfolding and doing what material nature does. The laws of nature do what the laws of nature do, and material nature moves the way it moves. But behind it, so that the concluding portion of this previous chapter, or this chapter, 27, is meditation on Supersoul. And one becomes proficient at meditation on Supersoul, that becomes the primary, if not exclusive. Something's funny with the sound system. It comes and it goes. Better battery, maybe. Okay. Soon happens. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Understand material nature, what's behind material nature. In Prabhupada's way of saying that, they do not know. Or this professor from University of Tokyo, we can't even talk about it. Okay? Because you can't talk about it doesn't mean there's something behind. By logic, that's not proof, but it's a means of knowing something. What happens without something behind it? There comes this whole discussion that Prabhupada would enter into again and again and again. What happens without a cause behind it? And everything, even if whatever most sophisticated, go into too much, robotics or artificial intelligence. So behind the robot that's doing something, there's somebody. It's not just a machine. There's a machine. And that's what artificial intelligence is, or robotics is. It's a machine. It has sophisticated whatever, And however many lifetimes it's taken to make robots, they now have some robots that can do human-like things. The very, very simple principle is, where's the experience? It says programming, etc. Very sophisticated form of it. You can make some nice movies about, it's already been done so many. Remember Space Odyssey? Projecting into the future where everything's going to be mechanized, and the spaceship robot had rebellion against the people that were in the spaceship. There was a battle between the occupants of the spaceship and the computer program. They gave him a name. Anyway, so you have science fiction, and the principle is, where's the seat of consciousness? Where's the experience of everything? So the experience of everything is the living entity, and the living entity's capacity to experience is resting upon someone that invests that capacity or can withdraw that capacity. In other words, so the whole system of Sankhya leads to dhyan upon the Supreme, and then dhyan, the Paramatma focus shifts to Bhagavan focus. That's coming attractions in the future chapters. But devotional service, that's more and more, so that's a platform that we're supposed to be moving on, more and more focused on the object. Doesn't mean activities of life stop. You're supposed to stop activity and just become immobile. And so that's not practical. It's not recommended either. Someone may try it. Yogis may try it. Like the severe austerities of this yoga practitioner or that yoga practitioner, even demons. How many years of severe austerities of, like what Dhruva Maharaj did, standing in one place on one foot, and he became so heavy the universe was pushing down, or the planet was pushing down, it was disrupting the universe. And one can develop powers, that's what this verse is speaking about, but one who's no longer interested in such powers, then they're interested in the powerful. The powerful is the Supreme. So this is a transition verse to the next chapter. Focus upon the Supreme, without this distraction, that distraction, or the other distraction. Attaining mystic powers is on the material platform. And persons are fascinated by material powers, and so they invest their time and energy in trying to develop material powers, or try to attain the heavenly planets. The reference, he doesn't make the reference, but the reference is Prabodhananda Saraswati, who speaks of attaining heavenly planets as will of the wisp, insubstantial, totally meaningless, worthless. So what's worthwhile? That's a good question. What's worthwhile is our eternal position, not attaining something that's on temporary. Now you see it, now you don't platform. And how to get one's consciousness on that beyond the temporary platform, by association of those who are on that platform. And then the teachings from those that are on that platform. So beyond liberation. because those that are disgusted with or feeling dissatisfied with material progress may turn to impersonalism, negation of. I'm pausing because just yesterday the Chinese translator wanted an explanation of how to translate Bhaktivinoda Thakur's statement of negative understandings. What is negative understanding? Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was expressing that a negative understanding it stays on the material platform. So negative understanding is, he said, it's neti neti. What is the absolute truth? It's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Negative understanding. Negation of material knowledge is a negative understanding. It is insufficient. So if it's not this and not this and that this, then what is it? Well, it's not this and it's not this and it's not this. That's what it is. You're left with impersonal, because this looks like personal. So it's not this and not this, then it's impersonal. It's certainly very limited, and also it's insubstantial. It stays as the approach to. There's two positions. One position is the position of a Mayavadi, and separate is the position of a Brahmavadi. That's a nice understanding. A Brahmavadi is one who understands Brahman. That's not a negative understanding, it's a positive understanding. Brahma Sukh, the happiness of Brahman, realization. And Mayavadi, distinct, they have this ideology that says the conception of Brahman is Maya. Brahman is covered by Maya. So Krishna's body is Maya, and our bodies are Maya, and all of this which the senses perceive is Maya. And when you remove the covering of Krishna and us and everything, what's left? The only thing that's left is Brahman. Definition by negation. Which is different than Brahma Sukh. Brahma Sukh is a valid transcendental realization, limited, but a valid transcendental realization, and otherwise it's just material. There's no real understanding or experience of what Brahman is. It's not this, not this, not this. So the purport is stating, and over and over and over and over again, messages in the Bhagavatam is that aspiration to ascend to higher status of human life, heavenly existence in the next life, attaining the stage of becoming one with Brahman, that happiness, it's all not the goal of what yoga system is. The goal of the yoga system is leaving behind the material, yes, and entering fully into the spiritual. And then what's entering fully into the spiritual? Well, it takes transcendental knowledge. It takes sound vibration to identify that which is beyond our experience and existed before we existed, both. So because it's eternal, that sound vibration has to be broadcast from an eternal place and received, even with these limited facilities of hearing, to awaken what we've forgotten and to understand transcendence. So that's the upcoming chapter. It's continuing with the theme of meditation, or the yoga process involving meditation, but beyond the allure of doing that meditation or doing that yoga in order to obtain mystic cities or anything else material. With the understanding that many of those who are yogis, many are interested in the cities. Devotees may be empowered with mystic cities, but they're not inclined to exhibit them, because people that will see, and they'll become attracted to obtaining mystic cities instead of attaining pure devotion. There's two little stories. I'm going to end with this. I forget exactly the context, but it was one of the temples where they were establishing Radha Krishna deities underneath the canopy. And Prabhupada was assisting. And something happened. Somebody bumped one of the columns, and the whole canopy, which was marble or heavy wood structure, started to fall, and it would have fallen right on the deities. So these powerful young American fellows were trying to prevent the canopy from falling. And Prabhupada stood there with his hands and held it up in the air while they fixed the column. And they were discussing amongst themselves afterwards, Prabhupada is such an elderly person. Where did he get the strength? Mystic power. Krishna gave the power to protect through the agency of his devotee. Or another Prabhupada story. It's well known. In a period of time when the devotees were staying at John Lennon's estate, he invited Prabhupada, and some devotees came and were staying at his estate. It was kind of a deal. You stay, and you make the place look nice, because it was kind of not kept well. So the devotees could do the labor, and he would provide a place for them to stay and get Prabhupada's association. So the devotees were happy, and Prabhupada agreed. And each morning they went for morning walks. So one morning, Jamuna, there was a photographer, so it wasn't just the two of them, but took pictures. She was walking behind Prabhupada, and she noticed that when she wanted to follow in the footsteps, but she was looking in the grass, wet morning grass in London, she couldn't find where his steps were. She looked behind herself, she could see her steps, but she looked again, Prabhupada's steps, she couldn't see where his steps were. So she asked him, how come I can't see your steps? But I'm behind neither steps. And Prabhupada's answer was, one day you'll understand. A celebrated little event. But it's not like he wanted to blow her mind, and so he stepped in such a way there weren't footprints. It's just one of those things that a devotee has powers, a pure devotee has powers that an ordinary person doesn't have. Where'd it come from? Where does mystic power come from? It's material, but material and spiritual come from the same source. So devotee's not interested. There's other examples, but I'll leave those other examples to the side. I'll mention one. one of the celebrated Vaishnavas in our line, several generations after Lord Chaitanya, became Rasika or Rasika Murari, became initiated disciple of Shamananda. And Rasika Murari was highly learned and philosophically brilliant, but he also had mystic powers. So one time, a yogi named Damodar had, by his mystic power, had tamed a lion. And he was accustomed to traveling from one place to another, riding on the back of the lion, showing off. So he, Yogi Damodar, heard about Rasika. So he wanted to meet him. So he came riding on the back of his lion. And when he met him, Rasika was the story, this is from Bhakti Ratnakar, or some book like that, Narottam Vilas, maybe that's where it's from. He was sitting brushing his teeth outdoors, little twig toothbrush, and he was sitting on a wall, and the yogi came up while he was brushing his teeth, and Rasika Murari understood the yogi's pride in his mystic power of being able to tame a lion. So he commanded the wall that he was sitting on to move. And the wall started to move. And the yogi got off the lion and paid the obeisances to Rasika Murari and became his disciple. And my mystic powers compared to yours, nothing. And it wasn't just by this, but it was purposeful, because here's this fellow interested in mystic powers, and normally devotees don't display. Pretty unusual example. An inanimate object following the command of a pure devotee. It's a nice story. There's others. He tamed a wild elephant by his mystic powers. Looked at the elephant in the top of his lungs. He was, going around a village, crashing things. He was a wild elephant. People were petrified. What do you do when a wild elephant's going wild in your village? So Rasika happened to be there, so he walked directly up to the elephant in the top of his lungs, chanting the Mahamantra. And the elephant stopped and paid his obeisances. Became a nice elephant after that. Celebrated event. So devotees may have mystic powers. They generally don't exhibit them, but sometimes, at least Rasika sometimes exhibited them. But they're material. Taming a lion, or taming a wild elephant, or making a wall move. It's material, because walls move without being a devotee. But anyway, it's a material power. Becoming big, becoming small, controlling another person, etc., etc. These are real things that yogis have the capacity to do. But that's the end of this chapter. When one goes beyond any interest in any of that, just like yesterday evening we discussed Lord Brahma in the second verse of chapter 14, he said, my mind is completely withdrawn from material attraction, but still I can't understand this form standing before me. To understand Krishna is not negation of material. And he had powers. You can say he had mystic powers. He had the power to build the universe. Who can do that? and not just inanimate objects or mountains or hills or things, but it's animate objects, etc. So mystic powers are different than transcendental power. And one no longer interested in the material movements of the material energy and being the controller in some fantastic way of the material energy. May be there, may not be there, it doesn't matter. What's important is what's coming up in the next 2 chapters, actually. Devotional service. Let's see if there's some discussion.
Maharaj, a couple of thoughts. So there's all these different processes that are given, and that is Krishna's mercy, because, he could say,
I'm not hearing. I'm going to bring my hearing aid tomorrow morning. So just use it without the microphone, I'll probably hear you better. Yes.
And the purpose of what I'm saying is all material. So it's all material, and then at some point, one may have bhakti, and even the practice of bhakti can be very materially motivated. So I'm thinking in terms of there's something people need that get met, like a privilege. However, these are still material needs. So, what makes that transition into bhakti is what you were saying where we use the word experience, seriousness. Is that where that transition happens, even within a transcendental process, of material and spiritual?
The transition, you can hear me okay. The transition is not, it's a gradual, the transition is dynamic, little by little by little, and then there's no limit to that transition. So the transition is where that which is purposeful, or the intention behind what I'm doing becomes for the pleasure of Krishna. That's the essence, the Rupa Goswami definition. Anukolyena Krishna Anushilanam. It's a seed. The transition is a seed of that. That the pleasure of Krishna is everything. Now the immature is there's a mix. See, the pleasure of Krishna plus. Now where does that for the pleasure of Krishna seed come? That's a nice question. But that's how it begins. So the transition isn't sudden or quantum commonly, but it's a cultivation of that Krishna should be pleased. So how that seed, Madhurya Kandamani discusses it. We discussed it in the Madhurya Kandamani seminar. But it's on the one hand, on the other hand, it's within already. Krishna Prema is already within. So the seed of Krishna Prema is already within. There was a young devotee that wrote a book saying It's not inherent, it's inherited. And he got blasted by his friends because it's not either this or that. There's mercy, yes, but it's all mercy that touches something that's already there. So from our side, effort, and from Krishna's side, mercy. So it's a combination of effort and mercy. That's bhakti. So the transition is when that which is inherent becomes awakened by mercy, by the mercy of representative of Krishna, for example.
And another question regarding this concept of defining things by the negative definition.
Defining by negative, yeah.
So, because spiritual concepts are so beyond us, sometimes this definition by negation is used.
Yes,
Are easy understanding.
we use it also, but they're not limited to that.
So, for example, when we hear time is conspicuous by its absence,
That's a negation.
Yeah. It's a negation. Or I'm very interested in the word ahimsa, non-violence, which means the absence of himsa, violence. So some things, even within our tradition, are defined by negation.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to understand, how is that different than how the Mayavadi approach negation?
Because that's it. They just rely on the reasoning process. So there's three: pratyaksha, anuman, and shabda. They don't rely upon shabda. They rely upon anuman. Or those who rely upon anuman, definition by negation is one of those: non-violence, or conspicuous by its absence, or definite. So it's. But we also engage in that kind. We don't shut off our reasoning power. But that's not, that points in a direction, but it's quite incomplete. It doesn't give God realization, doesn't give an experience of beyond Brahma Sukh, the happiness of impersonal Brahman. You know, the love that exists in Vaikuntha and in Krishna Loka can't be approached by negation. You can point in the direction, but whatever conception there is of what that's beyond what I'm experiencing now, it's fair, apart, and cloudy, very, very unclear and incomplete. It's certainly not to be experienced, and that's built into these prayers of Lord Brahma. They're really nice. I mean, since hearing them carefully, they're very instructive about practical application of the bhakti process in our life. Anything else? Yes? What? Yeah, you go ahead. Let's see what happens.
Regarding the Mayavadi and Brahmavadi difference,
Yes.
Brahmavadi's understanding is not wrong. I mean, they're the preliminary stage of understanding of the absolute
It's a
truth.
stage, one of the three features.
So Mayavadi's understanding of what Krishna's form is, the Brahman assumed the form of Krishna. Is that
No, their understanding is notional, conceptual only. The conceptual only, as Mahaprabhu said, this is a covered Buddhism, our acharyas have said. Shankara's teaching is covered Buddhism because Buddhism says there's nothing, and Shankara's teaching says there's something. But what's that something? It's nothing. It's not this, not this, not this. So there's no. So the position of the Mayavadi explicitly is all there is Brahman, and anything that we can experience, including Krishna's form, but anything we can experience, is Maya. The, the chandelier is Maya, the tree is Maya, and this body is Maya, and everything's Maya. What's that Maya is covering Brahman? What's Brahman? It's what's underneath the covering. But what's that? Not this, it's not this, it's not this. Because this is Brahman, is Maya. Okay. So what if it's not this, then what is it? It was not this. Definition by negation. It's not realization of the impersonal feature. It's conceptual. It's material.
The understanding about understanding of what is the understanding of the Supreme Lord's form of the Brahmavadis?
They. That's a nice question. Brahmavadi's conception of the spiritual form of Krishna. Well, I'm not sure. I just close my eyes and take a wild guess. It's not factual because all there is this impersonal Brahman, and so it's a nice idea. One can worship the form of Krishna, so that one can come to the Brahman realization stage. So it's pragmatic, but not substantial. That's my understanding, but I'll see if there's some further learned Vaishnava that has an explanation other than what I just gave. Let's say Brahmavadi's conception of the form of Krishna, or Vishnu. It's an imaginary form. It's different to say imaginary than it is to say it's Maya. It's more juggling. Let's see if someone offers a different explanation. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Let's see. Anything else? Okay, Shiva. Done.